Most people have no idea what's about to happen to the British economy. Over the last 5 years, life in Britain got extremely expensive, and most people are barely paying their bills. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And it seems on one side that maybe this is going to be over pretty soon and life will get back to normal, and most people will get out of this desperate financial situation. But if you actually give it a very closer look, it seems like the UK's financial problems are not going to be solved anytime soon. In fact, if you want to know the truth, the next 5 to 10 years are going to be fundamentally much worse financially than they have ever been in the history of the UK since 1945. And I know that this sounds like exaggeration, this sounds like fear-mongering, but once you look at the data, you will actually be convinced. So it's time for you to prepare yourself financially for the worst. The biggest problem that the UK is actually facing is the debt problem, because the UK has accumulated so much debt that most people cannot possibly comprehend. This is the British debt to GDP ratio, and you can see that since 1990s it has been consistently rising. Yes, in early 2000 it has fallen slightly, but after the 2008 financial crisis, the UK was insanely involved in it because the UK is the financial capital of the world and the British financial system is deeply integrated in the US financial system. So when the US economy collapsed, the British economy collapsed. How did we solve the problem? By throwing trillions of dollars into the economy, or in this case, trillions of pounds. And that kept actually going on until the pandemic happened, and this was literally the last punch to the British economy, where the entire economy or the debt completely got out of control. And now the debt to GDP ratio is about 100%. So here is the entire British economy. So the total size of the UK debt is as large as the entire size of the British economy. The problem with that is that when you borrow money, you have to pay interest. Let me give you a very simple example. If you have a mortgage, you're probably paying interest on that mortgage. So the bank has loaned you the money in exchange that you will be paying back that loan plus interest. When you use your credit card and you pay for stuff, you're not just giving back the money that you have borrowed, but if you actually miss the deadline, you will be paying interest. When you get an auto loan to buy a car, you're also paying interest on the loan that you have actually taken to buy that car. The same analogy works here. The British government over the last 30 years has borrowed so much money that interest payments today are the fundamental problem in the economy that the government doesn't even know how to raise more money to fix it. The second problem is that when you got used to run your economy on debt and now you have actually reached the limit, here is the question. How are you going to grow the economy next? If you have grown the entire economy over the last years just by borrowing money. Think about yourself. If you actually finance your entire lifestyle by borrowing money and suddenly the banks are no longer giving you loans, can you sustain that lifestyle? Now, the logical thing would be is that to actually downgrade your lifestyle. But what if you don't want to downgrade your lifestyle? Suddenly, life is going to get a lot more difficult. Suddenly, you will find yourself in a dilemma. You don't want to downgrade your lifestyle, and the banks are no longer willing to loan you money. But if the government is not going to pay back the debt, what do you think that is going to do to the trust in the British economy? The British economy has actually built its reputation to be this financial capital of the world. But if you're not paying back your debts, suddenly investors from all across the globe are no longer going to trust you, so you're no longer going to be the financial capital of the world. But here's an important question. Who does the British government owes money to? A third of the entire debt belongs to foreign investors. So the British government has borrowed money from people outside the UK. So you have no other option but to give that money back. If you don't do that, you are going to be in trouble. 18% of that debt is owed to the Bank of England. Well, this is not actually a problem but it still counts as part of the debt. And if you don't pay this debt back, you can basically avoid this debt, but you still have to make the interest payments in order to prove to the foreign investors that your currency and your central bank is independent. Another 28% is actually owed to insurance and the pension funds. So you have all these pensions in the UK, and part of what they do is that they take the money that comes from taxes and they invest it in the British government bonds, and they receive interest, and then they try to make the pension or the interest payments. If you are an insurance company, then you must hold a certain amount of cash because you are doing insurance business. But nobody actually wants to hold so much cash, which is why instead of cash, you are going to hold government bonds. That allows you to generate interest while you're holding a lot of cash. Another 15% of that is owed to the British banks. Again, the exact same analogy works here. If you're a bank, you must hold a certain amount of safe assets, and a government bond is a safe asset in this case, which allows you to generate interest and protect yourself against inflation and at the same time do your banking business. And the other 5% just belongs to everybody else in the market. The UK economy cannot be fixed unless the debt is actually managed in the first place. So if you look at the British economy or the country as a whole, you will see that there are a lot of problems. And you can see that politicians are blaming the immigrants, they're blaming this group of people, they're blaming this and that. The problem is that when you have a government where you're actually making 10% of the entire your budget that goes into interest payments, secondly, you no longer can borrow more money to fix all of these problems, now you're stuck. And now you're looking for a scapegoat. You're looking for somebody to blame when you are the problem, when the solution is very obvious. You simply have to downgrade your lifestyle and start paying back the debt. You grow the economy with growing your population. What is a GDP at the end of the day? A GDP is where more money is being spent in the economy. So the more people you have in the economy, the more money is being spent in the economy, the more money circulates in the economy, and the faster the GDP is going to grow. If you look at the GDP of India, the average Indian is extremely poor. But the fact that India has a population of 1.5 billion people, that's why India has one of the largest GDPs in the world. The same analogy worked with China. But because the average person in China is much wealthier than the average person in India, the total GDP in China is far greater. Now, if you want to have a large GDP in the UK, you must have more people. But the problem is that the birth rates in the UK are collapsing. The birth rates are not rising in the UK. Secondly, historically, the UK has not been a large country. It's a small island if you compare the UK to many other nations. So if you're such an important country in the world and you don't have a large enough population, you're not going to have a large enough economy. And if you don't have that, then how are you going to project power around the globe? So if you want to have a large economy, you must attract more people. This was basically the main reason why the UK actually wanted so many immigrants to come to the UK, to move to the UK. Why? Because the population of the UK is about 70 million people. Well, that seems a lot. If you compare that to the standards today around the globe, that is absolutely nothing. The total population of the US is about 350 million people. 70 million people, 350 million people. So one way the British politicians wanted to grow the GDP is by bringing people to the UK because the birth rates are collapsing. Another problem that the country has is that life expectancy is rising. So imagine you are the average Brit that has spent his entire life paying payroll taxes. So when you're going to retire, you're expecting the government to actually pay you pension. Now, the whole idea of the pensions is that you have young people who are working, they're paying taxes, and they're supposed to take care of the elderly people. Now, the elderly people who are going to go into pensions, they're living for far longer, which means that they will be receiving more pensions for far longer. The problem is that if your birth rates are collapsing, there aren't enough young people in the economy to pay the taxes to take care of the elderly. What do you do in this situation? You can't just go to the average Brit and just tell him, I know that you've been paying your pensions your entire life, but we have one problem. We don't have enough birth rates. We don't have enough young people in the economy to pay your pensions, so you will be left with no other pension. That means that tomorrow there is going to be a revolution in the UK. All these elderly people that spend their entire life paying taxes, They will overthrow whatever government is there. And it's not their fault. They did what they're supposed to do. But the politicians basically who managed the country over the last 50 years completely screwed the country. So the pensions in the UK are at risk of collapsing. So what do you think the British politicians do? Imagine you are running the UK. Imagine you are the person who's actually taking the decisions. You know that you don't have enough young people that's supposed to pay taxes in order to take care of the elderly to pay them the pensions. What do? Exactly. You open the doors of the UK to the young people from all across the globe who want to move to the UK and build their lives in the UK. And these young people will come to your country. You don't have to spend money on their education. You don't have to spend money to take care of them. They will basically come, they will start working, and they will start paying taxes. And that's how you fix the problem. And suddenly you understand why the UK is allowing so many immigrants to come to the country. It's not because the UK has this replacement theory to replace the white people, but when you open your doors, who do you think is going to come to your country? Do you think the average Swedish person is going to abandon Stockholm and is going to come to the UK? Well, of course not. I mean, Swedish streets are so nice. The Swedish country is so nice. The Swedish culture is so nice. They have a proper nice country. The average Swede is much wealthier than the average Brit, most likely. So why would they actually move there? Most likely the people who will move to the UK are going to be from the countries that are financially less prosperous than the UK. And that's why you have so many young people coming from all these countries. And the British government is not doing that out of their good hearts. They are doing that because they're forced to do this financially. Otherwise, the entire pension system in the UK is going to collapse. That's why the total population of the UK is 70 million people, and 10 million of them are born outside the UK. That's like 16 or 17% of the entire population. So here's the question. What is the solution? Because now the UK can no longer bring more people to the country. Not because the UK cannot possibly do that, but because there is a lot of backlash. People are not liking that because suddenly you have an inflow of people that don't look like you, they don't speak like you, they don't dress like you, they don't have the exact same culture. So you kind of want to stop that because it is creating a political problem. But this solution is going to make every Brit much poorer. If you look at the projections for the UK debt to GDP ratio, you will see that it is actually stabilizing. So how exactly do you think they're going to solve the problem that the debt is not going to accelerate? If you look at the average British government debt, it is 14 years old. So all these people who invested in the British debt, they will be invested for a very long time. And that gives the British government to actually maneuver around it and manipulate the value of the debt. How? By devaluing the currency of the pound, by boosting the GDP through inflation. So what is the GDP at the end of the day? A GDP is how much money is circulating in the economy, right? Here's the question. Can the British government print more money? Can the British government throw more money into the economy? Yes, of course they can. When you're throwing more money into the economy, more money is circulating in the economy and the GDP is growing. Now, the question is to you, did the real economy grow just because we threw more money into the economy? Of course, no. But did the GDP rise? Yes. Now, the debt to GDP ratio suddenly is stabilizing, or maybe it is even going down. So the people who lend their money to the British government, yes, they are losing a portion of their money, but at the same time, the people who are on a fixed wage, at the same time, the people who have savings, the value of their savings goes down. Suddenly, prices are rising while wages are not rising as fast as prices. And that's why you look around at your life and you're like, what exactly has happened? When exactly life became so extremely expensive? So every single time you see the British government boosting the GDP by throwing money into the economy, that is creating inflation and making you poor every single day. And here's the problem. Inflation will be rising as the tensions between the US and China gets a lot worse. The UK is an island and there's very few things that the UK itself actually producing. So the UK historically and today heavily relies on trade. So it brings stuff from all across the globe. So it's very, very important for the global shipping routes to be safe, for the UK to be prosperous, for the cost of living in the UK to be decent. But now you're having this major war between China on one side and the US on the other side. And they're actually fighting for the global dominance. They're disrupting global supply chains. Now there's oil that's not flowing from the Middle East. And now who knows what is going to happen next. That is going to make the cost of everything around the globe a lot more expensive. And guess who exactly going to suffer from that? The United Kingdom. And this tension between the US and China is not going to slow down tomorrow. It is going to last for the next 5 to 10 years. So you can actually already plan your life in such a way that for the next 5 to 10 years, inflation is going to be a lot more expensive. Inflation is going to be a lot higher. And it's also going to be an excuse for the government to throw more money into the economy because simply there is a shortage of goods in the economy and there is global inflation anyways. So inflation will be rising faster than the real economy. The real economy can rise by 1%. And then inflation rises by 3%. You won't actually feel it. But if it lasts for a few years, suddenly every single year, prices are simply rising much faster than your wages. And over time, you will just find yourself a lot more poorer. But here's the second way the British government is trying to save the problem or save the economy. Rising wages means that you will be paying a lot more taxes. When we are throwing more money into the economy, when there is more inflation, your wages are growing. But of course, your wages are not growing as fast as prices are growing. But that means that every single time your wages are growing, you're getting into a new tax bracket. So you're paying more taxes. So for example, anybody that is making less than £12,500 is not actually paying any taxes because that's about £1,000 a month. You're barely making ends meet. You're basically surviving, which is why you're not paying taxes at this level. But now imagine you will be making more than £12,500, not because you're actually getting a better job, but because prices are rising and your employer is essentially raising your income. Now you might be making £14,000, but this £14,000 can actually afford less things. But now you're actually paying taxes on that extra £2,000. Why? Because you're jumping into a new income bracket. The same thing is going to happen to people who are making about £50,000 a year. Now, £50,000 might seem a lot, but it's about like what, £4,000 a month? Well, that seems like a decent amount of income, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not the kind of income that is making you rich. This is literally just the bare minimum for you to have a decent life. Because there is so much inflation, your income might rise from $50,000, let's say, to about $60,000. Now you're jumping into a new income bracket, which means that you will be paying 40% on that extra money that you will be making, even though that this $60,000 can actually buy a lot less things than it used to in the past. Now, the same thing is going to happen. So basically, this system allows the government to raise more taxes from you without even raising taxes on the average Brit. This is genius. So on one side, you are devaluing the value of the pound. On the other side, that raises your wages, artificially forcing you to pay more taxes. And that's how the British government is actually solving this problem. If you do this for a few years, life is only going to get more expensive. It's not solving the problem. It is basically postponing the problem for a later time, because there isn't a single politician that is ready to take the responsibility and address the British nation and tell them, listen, we have borrowed so much money and spent that money God knows on what. And now it's time to pay back our debts. So we have to lower the quality of our life and pay more taxes. That is the only way we can actually get out of this debt trap. So everybody who is on a fixed paycheck is certainly going to lose out of it. That's why it has never been as important as it is today to start investing. Because if you're investing and the government is throwing so much money into the economy and there is inflation, the price of assets will rise as well. Just look at house prices over the last 30 years. House prices have grown so much because there has been so much inflation. But the average person can't start investing in real estate because just buying one house is going to cost you a few £100,000. But you can start investing in the stock market, because in the stock market, you can start with as little as $1. And that allows you to start building wealth even if you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you want a step-by-step strategy on how to start investing and make your first $1 million in the stock market, then join the Investing Academy. The link is in the description of this video.